Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of Woodward's Watercolours, and today we're going to be looking at Derwent Inktense watercolour pencils, the best watercolour pencils that I believe is on the market, and I'm going to show you today how I use them. So come with me and let me demo these wonderful little pencils for you. So here they are, the wonderful 24 pack of the Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils. Now you can get them, I think, in maybe in 36 and 72, and then 144 as well, and I think even larger than that. But this little set, I think it set me back about 35 to 40 pounds. Got it in Hobbycraft in Belfast, and they are just by far, you can see that it's really quite telling, isn't it? Some of the colours are far more used than others, and actually this one is, some of them are in dire need of sharpening. So just to demo, this is the best sharpener that I have found by Fabre Castell, and it just is a brilliant little sharpener, and it sharpens without fail. And I always feel quite precious about these watercolour pencils because they're expensive. Now look at that, isn't that a great point that you're getting? They're quite expensive, but also the pigment that is present in the actual pencil is just so good. I really don't want to waste any, and this one has a good variety of colors, and I want to show you the ways that I know of that others use them, and then I want to show you how I use them, and you can decide for yourself what you think is the best practice. Now obviously it can be a mix of several different styles, but I just wanted to show you how they can be used. Okay, so let's pick a color that is going to be pretty explosive to be able to see. Okay, so the first way that I want to show you that I have seen others use is that you take the pencil actually and you dip the pencil into some water, and then you start to draw. I don't find that that works for me at all, so that's not how I use them. The other way then that you can use them is to wet an area, and I would sometimes use these as like highlighters effectively in different sections of watercolor. So you wet the area of the watercolor paper and then you draw it on like so. Then the other way that I know of that people have used it is again wetting the area, and I'm going to pick a different color this time, and you then take a knife and you scrape on or scrape off, sorry, that's a really annoying sound, then you scrape it off onto the page. Now I am not quite sure what to do with that. It certainly, the colors seem to just begin to bleed onto the page where it's wet, but I don't find that the best practice. So I want to get myself organized, and I'm going to show you how I use these wonderful little watercolor pencils. Okay, so what we're drawing is a kind of a rolling hill scene. Well, not, it's a looking over the Narble Bay in the Isle of Man. So I'm just taking this color first, as leaf green. This is one of the kind of staple colors that I would use, and we're just getting in the, so at this point I just want to get in the structure effectively of the scene. So I'm just taking the leaf green and really mapping out just the simple shapes of the scene that we're going to be drawing here today. Okay, so this is the road swinging around here, and we're just going to use this then to continue to get the feel of the big hills that they're rolling up to the side down to the ocean. Narble Bay actually in the Isle of Man is where you would tend to see a lot of whales and things, so there's a lot of whale spotters that's an area that they would go to be able to see that. So okay, so then we're going to carry that out. This is the headland then coming up and over, and we're getting further and further into the distance. I love that kind of overlapping feeling that you get in an ocean scene where it just seems to nearly go on forever into the distance, and then you've got that little other hill just poking out across there in the distance. Okay, so that's kind of the main structure. Now we're taking the charcoal. This is the charcoal grey. I'm going to use it like any other pencil. Now obviously you don't have the B's, as in the H, you know, B's the darker and H is the lightest. So you're just really working with the amount of pigment that you're going to put down, the sharpness that you have of the pencil, the direction of the lines that you're going to use. And I am going to use a little bit of iris blue in there, and that's in the hope that these will mix a little when we get to that point. Now, when we're looking at the ocean, now we are restricted. Sea blue, there's a good one to use. So I'm going to try and follow the direction of the waves. And the good thing is with this, notice that harder line there, just to highlight certain areas. Okay, we're just gonna not do too much. Now we're gonna move on then to this. It's a very bright color. So I mean, this is going to look much more vivid than the watercolors that I would typically use, because I would tend to use a more muted palette, but I am deliberately going to work with the colors that we'll have here. So just adding in bits as we see them. I'm going to go then to, this is mustard. Now this mustard is really cool because it works like a quinacridone or quinacridone color, as some people pronounce it. And we're just going to, I like kind of squiggling around all over the place, and adding in those different areas, and it will hopefully all, at this point it just looks like I'm frantically moving all over the place, but it will hopefully, as we move on, begin to look like something that makes more sense. So we're just going to keep working through, just trying to notice the differences in the colors and the subtleties. Okay, so we're just finding the darker points as well. Okay, and then just a couple of more darker points just along there. Okay, now for those distance, now this is a teal green. Now do I want to use the teal green? I think what I'll actually do is I'll use the leaf green, and then I'll maybe use a little bit of the teal on top of that, because I don't want it to look too unrealistic. And at the same point, with these colors and the range of colors that we have, because we're effectively just yielding ourselves to the color palette that we have, we have to just go with what we've got here. Okay, so just you'll find that these are a little more brittle. Now if you're used to using like the B's range of pencil, then you will be used to more brittle kind of colors, because obviously the lead is softer. But they are obviously softer because you're using a pigment in the shape of a, it's not a lead, if you know what I mean. That's the point of the pencil, is a pigment. Okay, so because I know how these work, I am just working away here. Let me see, and the charcoal grey is going to be a good addition for these ones in the background as well. And they do blunt quicker than certainly the H pencils, so that's something to really be ready for as you're using them. At the same point, it's like all of these things, you get used to how they work and how they feel. So I'm going to continue on here to build up the grass along here. And you can obviously use the stroke of your pencil and cross-hatching and all sorts of things to begin to give a sense and a feel of the texture of the ground that you're actually trying to represent here. But also, because I use these quite a lot, I know how they work, and therefore I can sort of guess, it is a guesstimate as to what the colors are going to do, how it's going to look. Do I need to add more pigment in here, or is that enough? Will it work okay as it is? We're just working our way through here, and then over onto this side, really I'm going to, as you can see, end up really mixing effectively some of these colors together here. Back to the leaf green again. It's probably one of my favorite colors because it's within the palette range that I would normally use, which is the more earthy kind of tones, and therefore it gets used a lot by me. Just breaking those lines in a little bit more into these areas over here, and then in this part of the headland it then moves into the more kind of viridian sort of a color. So I'm gonna bring this across here. I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of this color. We think yellow ochre would be a good color to have, and likely that mustard is really quite interesting too. So I'm gonna mix in a little bit of that, and then with this headland I want to pick, this is the field green, and I think what I'll do actually is mix some of it with some of the brown, and maybe even a touch of blue to kind of add that little bit more, you know, color and depth to it. So we're nearly there. Wanted to keep this a relatively quick and simple demonstration so that you can see quickly what these things are actually capable of. Now, I want to take a little bit, now that's ink black. I will use ink black, but this is bark. Now the bark is very good because it's nice and dark, and it also, but it's not a black. So it kind of gives you those different feels there. So I can't really see anywhere where there is a black. I'll add just a tiniest little bit in there, and as I said, I was going to add in just a little bit of the blue here. Now the other thing is the sky. So the sky, really, it's a grey sky, and they provide you with an outliner, and the outliner is not water soluble, so you can get caught out trying to use it when in actual fact it's not soluble, so it's not actually effective as a watercolor pencil. Okay, and the last thing that I want to do is just add in a little bit of this mustardy color right here and just down on this section across here. Okay, so that is the drawn part complete, and hopefully you'll love this piece. So where I'm going to start is the sky. So you can see just how much this is full of pigment. I mean, it is absolutely brimming full, and you can agitate it enough that it almost sort of rubs out the lines, but I love the lines so much. It holds the pigment so intensely on the brush that you can flick with it, and we're just going to work our way through here. These will bleed ever so slightly. Can you see how amazing these pigments actually are? And they really do mix quite well together, so I'm just not letting them touch, and just pulling this across here. We're moving more towards the foreground, so again, I'm being as careful as I can. These colors are electric, and I mean, most of you know from the style of my paintings that I'm not using anywhere near these colors. Now this should then, look at that. That green is so much lighter in reality, so we can let these guys mix together. And what you can do is, if you've got a dominance of a colour on your brush, then rinse it off, and then you're going to be able to let them blend together. And as we keep going here, you'll hopefully see this really quite clearly. So we're just bringing these together. Isn't it great? Hopefully this will really encourage you to be tempted to and get your own set of these amazing watercolor pencils. They are really the best, certainly from a pigment point of view, that I have seen on the market, and I am 100% Derwent Inktense, because they are just so phenomenally good. Okay, and then what I'm going to do as well is, with this, so I've cleaned the brush off so that I don't want these to mix together, because this is the pathway, and just getting these blues here, moving them down and around, just indicating that pathway. And then I'm going to take this flat edge brush this time to be able to get across the feeling of the water in the bay. So just as I move this across here, then this pigment as well just begins to explode as well. I think that's what I find about these watercolor pencils, is they just explode. So there you go. That's how I use these watercolor pencils. I draw with them just as normal, and then as you get to know them, I mean, in this area I could work it more, but for the purposes of keeping this nice and succinct, it gives you a really good demonstration of what these wonderful watercolor pencils are actually capable of. Aren't they just the most wonderful little watercolor pencils? The pigment just explodes as you add water to it. I hope that maybe gives you ideas, and it maybe sends you to the shops to get yourself a set, because they are absolutely fantastic. So if you want to draw that scene, I'm going to put that reference image up onto the community part of my YouTube video. Also, I want to say I will be more than happy to give that little watercolor pencil drawing away. So if you would like to put your name into the comments below, or you can put it on the community page, then I'm going to put those names into a hat and draw them out and then send that to you. So thank you so much for watching. It's always good to have you along. I love reading your questions and your comments. So do like and subscribe and share with your friends if they would find benefit in watching this channel as well. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.